with one clear message for Jamaica. Time come now.
Jamaican people want better. Time coming like stormy weather.
So here we are again, comrades, for the 84th time in this great party's history. We are here together as a family, dedicated to taking Jamaica in the right direction for a powerful future of hope for our people.
There is power in the name of Jesus to break every chain, break every chain, break every chain.
Yes, my Jamaican family, time come now to break every chain that is holding this country back. We have had a long, tough, traumatic colonial history in this country. Our journey has been hard, and we are still living with the vestiges of the past that are holding us back. That is why the British King is still the head of state of our land, Jamaica. That is why we are not yet fully on board with the Caribbean Court of Justice as our final court. That is why we are so violent in how we deal with each other. That is why we don't even respect our own Jamaican language in this country. That's why we still deny communities access to their beaches. And it's why we see the government bulldozing houses of vulnerable Jamaicans, people who the state should be protecting, not oppressing. We must build one nation where we are all respected as Jamaicans. That has always been the mission of our party. As our founding father, the Right Excellent Norman Washington Manley, told us, this national movement continues to be composed of an alliance of these classes and others who sympathize with our aims under our banner to work for the freedom of Jamaica. Daddy Manley says so.
Me love Jamaica, me not sell out. Them try clip we wings, somehow we can't fly out. But when we there yard, nothing nice like Jamaica. Roll the tree with a glass of lemonade. Jump in the river when me ready for bed. No boy can't buy me out. Me no foreign minded, no way compared to Jamaica. Jamaica love, we wanna feel Jamaica.
The system we have now in this country is not working for far too many Jamaicans. The General Secretary has said there are two Jamaicas, and he has expressed it vividly with examples. And it is true, it is a reality. But there is hope, because the power to achieve the change we need resides in the people of Jamaica. The people have the power to make the change. It is time to free the Jamaican people from the deep sense of frustration and oppression that comes from a system that is not working for the majority of our people. Jamaica must not squander the chance of constitutional reform we are undertaking as a nation at this time. The Constitution is the overarching guide to the way the whole system operates. It is the rules that we have made for ourselves and the processes that govern our lives as a people. The Constitution is not a meal deal, it is a big deal. As a first step, we must reform the Constitution to complete the decolonization process. We need to decolonize Jamaica once and for all. We in the PNP have no interest in moving to a republic while retaining the King's Privy Council in London as Jamaica's final court. That does not make sense to any progressive person. Jamaicans need a final court where they don't need a visa to go there and where the costs of attending court are not way out of their reach. Time come for a Jamaican head of state and the Caribbean Court of Justice as our final court. Decolonization now. We, the People's National Party, will support both moving forward together. We have no interest in one without the other. We also want to make the government accountable to the people of Jamaica in the Parliament. That is why I brought the impeachment bill to Parliament. So then, when a politician violates the sacred trust of the people, he or she will be held accountable. We want to deepen the democracy. We want to make the elected people more accountable to those they represent. We must introduce a recall mechanism for non-performing elected representatives, as other parties and countries have done around the world. And we must restore the convention where the committees of Parliament are chaired by the opposition. That was an innovation started by the other party, by a previous Prime Minister, and continued by us when we were last in government. But in 2020, Andrew Holness changed course with it. Those committees are supposed to be a check and balance on the government. They cannot be effective if they are controlled by the government. When Andrew Holness reversed the convention after the 2020 election, it was a retrograde step. And I tell you, he never put it in his manifesto that he'd be doing that. People, a corrupt government cannot liberate the people. If the head of the stream is corrupt, the entire river will be also. I do not support corruption. Corruption takes money away from children's education. It deprives hospitals of basic necessities. It means that roads are not fixed. Corruption deepens inequality. It siphons off taxpayers' money to make a few cronies richer with the political connections instead of benefiting the people. This government has been doing everything it can to weaken and undermine the Integrity Commission, which is an institution that I designed as Minister of Justice and brought the legislation to Parliament to fight corruption in this country. I have said it before and I will tell you again. Jamaica cannot move forward without a government built on integrity that embraces principles of good governance in this country. That is what I believe in. That is how I live my life. I, Mark Jefferson Golding, am a born Jamaican, son of the soil. I come from a family that has given great service to the people of this country. Selfless service to ordinary Jamaicans, building lasting institutions of inclusion to empower persons with disabilities. That is my family tradition. I am who I am. Out of many, one people. I am offering myself to the Jamaican people for service in their interests with the skills, the knowledge, and the experience that I have gained in my life. I don't come here to scrape from the people. I come to serve all Jamaicans. And I come to you, Jamaica, with clean hands and a clean heart. whatever depraved and divisive vulgarities my political opponents may stoop to in their desperation to hold on to power, I will not be daunted. I have no fear of them. I stand firm in leading our party in our mission of social and economic transformation to a better Jamaica for all our people. I am leading the People's National forward. The mission of the last PNP administration from 2012 to 2016 was to fix Jamaica's long-standing chronic debt problem so that Jamaica could escape the debt trap and give our people a real chance of inclusive national development. Under Sister P and under Dr. Peter Phillips, we transformed the systems of managing our public finances in this country. So successful was this effort.
We no frightened so easy.
So much choice,
when the rolling with the army that no scare we.
Love and shine,
the Gaza.
Yeah. The irony of it is, you know, when that happened to Andrew Holness in Parliament, them claims that PNP sabotage him. And we tell him say damn foolishness and I get myself in a trouble for it. Anyway, we're back up and running. So successful was this effort that in just 10 years, Jamaica's debt in comparison to the size of our economy, which is what the economists call the debt to GDP ratio, how big your debt is relative to the size of your economy, was cut in half over 10 years, from 147% in 2013 to 78% in 2023. But as great an achievement as it is not enough. While things look good on the books, we are not balancing people's lives, as Sister P would say. Our economy is not delivering prosperity for the majority of our people. Since getting back to where it was before the pandemic, the economy is once again hardly growing. And it is still delivering mainly low-paying jobs, as Julian Robinson said. The education system is failing our children. And our society is plagued by high levels of violent crime. How can any government claim they deserve another term in office when this is the record and this is what they're delivering for the people of Jamaica? In fact, for this government, prosperity is symbolized as a donkey. It is their hee-haw way of delivering prosperity in this country. Their concept of prosperity is a beast of burden, a low-tech solution for modern-day problems. The JLP's jackass name prosperity is symbolic of the low-wage, low-tech, low-growth economy in which Jamaica is trapped. But the people are crying out for more. They want to see this country move in the right direction. They want to see positive change.
My father born ya. My father.
They want opportunities to step up in a life and to see hope for a better life for themselves and their families. And they need the People's National Party to do that. Thousands of tertiary trained students graduate each year having made the investment in preparing themselves for the future, for the workforce. But they are facing the daunting prospect of an economy that is only offering low-wage jobs that do not meet their aspirations for personal development. Our people want peace and security in their communities. They want a society based on social justice, where every Jamaican is respected and treated as a valued citizen of this country. Jamaicans need a government that will begin to tackle the deep problems that are holding our country back. The challenges that are dimming the flame of hope for a better tomorrow. No more of the same. No more of the same. Time come to move in the right direction. Time come to take real steps towards the next era of transformation of our beloved nation. We can do it, Jamaica. So when the government gets a credit rating from the credit rating agencies indicating that Jamaica is a good credit risk, we know that. We made that happen. Dr. Peter Phillips, Sister P, with me doing the legal work to support it, made that happen. But it is not enough, and the people need more. And the power lies in the people to make it happen. The PNP will lead the country on a new mission, which is to achieve the next great transformation of Jamaica. We must take Jamaica out of the current low-wage, low-tech, low-growth model and move forward to a higher level of national development. Our mission is to move from fiscal stability to economic transformation. Fiscal stability is important. We understand how to do it. We understand why it's necessary, but it is not sufficient. Economic and social transformation is where we need to go. And that is where we will be taking Jamaica. We need to begin to build a different Jamaica, a Jamaica moving in the right direction. And I will now tell you some of what we have in mind for the future. Beginning with education and training. The People's National Party believes that investing in the development of our people is the key to economic and social transformation. The great talents, resilience, creative power of the Jamaican people have made us global superstars in culture and sports. The next PNP administration will invest in the development of the capacities of people to be productive and innovative in other areas too. To get there, we cannot accept what exists in education today. where over 30% of children leaving primary school cannot read and write, and around 50% don't have the basic number skills or comprehension skills. That is a recipe for underdevelopment, for backwardness, and for persistent poverty. Bond that, the PNP, not in that. We have to change that.
Time come now, people are balling, can't take no more. Now that the crime reach everybody door. Uptown, them a leak shot. Downtown, everybody.
With the current situation, it means every year, many thousands of children enter high school without the foundational skills to cope with secondary school work. Most of them will eventually leave high school without achieving the basic standard of 5 C6 subjects, including English and maths. This is one of the most significant sources of Jamaicans' problems. It feeds low self-esteem, frustration, anxiety, feelings that lead too many youths into badness and criminal activity. It causes too many of our people to be left behind. Those deficits in education and training leave us behind in the global race, the global workforce, as we are not attracting investments in high-paying, high-tech, value-added production of goods and services, which is the key to wealth creation. Most importantly, our society is still suffering from the long reach of negative ideas built by slavery. We must include the teachings of the Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey in our schools to build back that self-esteem, that inner confidence and personal inspiration to all our children, regardless of the race. The power of the philosophies of Garvey, of racial upliftment, self-help, collective work, those will allow our children to recognize and believe that they are beautiful and brilliant and can achieve what they will if they set their mind to it and work steadfastly to accomplish their dreams and goals.
Rebel speaks again. I say be careful what you teach your little children. Make sure I know something to hurt them. Mind what you're saying to my sister. She could be the...
We cannot address these fundamental problems that are retarding our national progress and holding us back without addressing the weaknesses in the education system. Taking our nation in the right direction can only happen with transformation in education and training. Education and training will therefore be the #1 priority for the next PNP administration. Education and training are the key to a strong society and an economy capable of transformation to a higher level of income and wealth for our people.
Ain't gonna lie, education is the key and the limit is the sky. Ain't gonna lie, unity is strength, get a youth, love is life. Ain't gonna lie.
In keeping with the Orlando Patterson report, we will prioritize early childhood development and primary schools because our children must have a good start to advance. The goal of the next PNP government will be to ensure that Jamaica has a first-class citizen, first-class system of early childhood development and primary school education, second to none in this region, in this hemisphere. That is how we will focus on bringing along those who are currently left behind. We will make investments in teacher training, in teacher compensation, in infrastructure and technology to support services for parenting. We need to give our children the best start in life. We will expand and improve the school feeding program to ensure adequate and proper nutrition and to encourage school attendance. Jamaica is a world power in terms of cultural influence. The expressive style and power of our language is part of what has made the Jamaican language an international cultural language. It is loved abroad, but why we don't respect it a yard? We must acknowledge that we have a language problem in this country. Part of the legacy of our colonial past is the belief that the Jamaican language created by our own people is somehow unworthy and only to be spoken by those who can do better. It is time to move beyond that negative and backward way of thinking. It is time for Jamaica to formally recognize Jamaican as a language and give it its due respect. A major cause of underachieving primary school performance is rooted in the assumption that English is the home language of our children. For many of our children, that is not so. We must use the Jamaican language to advance learning in English, arithmetic, and critical thinking in the foundational years. We want all our children to be proficient in English, proficient in maths, to think critically. The Jamaican language has an important role to play in achieving that. We must also place emphasis on student support and the diagnosis of learning disabilities so we can deal with those problems early. Many of our children are troubled and need deeper levels of facilitation. We owe this to our children so that they can secure better educational outcomes for themselves. Education must also be the base of transformation towards a nation of productive citizens. The PNP will reinstate civics as a mandatory course in our school system. Our children must understand the structure of the Constitution. They must know their fundamental rights and freedoms as a Jamaican citizen and how to build democratic governance in our country. The wholesome values and attitudes of good citizenship, respecting each other, playing a part and caring for the well-being of everyone in our nation. We must inculcate these things into the minds of our children so that our society can be cohesive and strong. That is how we will grow the attitudes for a better, more peaceful, more loving Jamaica with a sense that we know where we are going. Education and training are the antidotes to poverty. For our tertiary students, our intention is to remove the barriers and take the fear out of borrowing student loans to invest in their education. We will eliminate the need for a guarantor of a student loan, which many students from low-income families find hard to find. The state has a responsibility to build a thriving economy, and the state, not our students, should bear the risk of being out of a job. We will therefore introduce a loan payment rule which caps monthly payments at a manageable percentage of income. In periods where the borrower is out of work, their loan payments will be suspended and tacked onto the back end of their loan term. We will not make delinquent borrowers out of our students when they are unable to access jobs which the economy should be delivering for them. In the area of training, Jamaica needs to provide training which is relevant to the current and foreseeable needs of the economy. We, the PNP, will incentivize partnerships between the state's training institutions and private sector companies which have strong training capacity to address the shortage of workers that is now becoming a major factor in the underinvestment in this economy. We will work with the private sector to solve that problem. I am already in discussions with private sector leaders to identify innovative solutions to these problems, to meet the legitimate need for workers while ensuring that the country's training capacity for our people is expanded and modernized. We must all work together to solve the problems of this nation. The PNP has always been an alliance of all well-thinking Jamaicans, uptown, downtown, round town, town or country. We are there for everyone. I want to say a little bit about food security, climate change, and the transformation of agriculture. Comrades, Jamaica imports over $1 billion of food each year and has run for many years a large trade deficit in goods. Imports are more than 3 times greater than exports. The pandemic taught us that global systems of supply are vulnerable and expose the need to reduce our reliance on external sources of feeding our people. Michael Manley said, we must eat what we grow and grow what we eat. It is still relevant today. As climate change impacts our weather patterns, we need to be proactive in identifying the steps to build resilience in our food supply systems as an important part of our overall strategy for dealing with the impacts of more extreme climatic events. As Prime Minister, Sister P had the vision to establish climate change as a specific ministerial portfolio responsibility as far back as 2012. In fact, our chairman for life, Bobby Pickersgill, was the first minister. We will begin the work and continue the work that started then to continue to prepare Jamaica for what is to come. Agriculture will be a key economic priority for the next PNP government. The rural economy and rural society depend on agriculture, and developing agriculture is essential to ending rural poverty and expanding rural quality of life. The transformation in agriculture is therefore indispensable to achieving national economic and social transformation. It has to happen.
Farming over plastic, investment over graphic.
The good news is that agriculture has tremendous potential for export-led growth because Jamaica is blessed with high quality and marketable produce. Our coffee, our cocoa, our ginger, our scallion, our garlic, our herbs and spices, our Sea Island cotton, and of course, the good medicinal and therapeutic ganja where I liberate in 2015. We must develop a modern nutraceutical sector based on indigenous knowledge and expand our aquaculture industry as part of the blue economy. These opportunities must be realized by strategic investments by the state and partnerships with the private sector. Modernization of the sector will not leave our small farmers behind. The needs of our farmers and fisher folk are central to our plan. It requires investments in training, farm roads, irrigation systems, storage facilities. It requires integrated relationships between larger investors in agriculture and agro-processing and smaller farmers to achieve transfer of technology and best practices. It means deepening the linkages between farmers and other sectors of the economy, especially the hotels and restaurants. Many of these initiatives started under previous PNP governments, but they need to go further. And the next PNP government is going to be treating this as a priority. We will expand the mechanisms of technical support for farmers and revive state support in the areas of marketing and distribution, including having clean and dignified markets for our people to come and buy their food. I move now to the issue of energy. Energy is critical to economic transformation, and the cost of electricity is unsustainably high in Jamaica, making it difficult for our economy to compete with the rest of the world and making life hard for our consumers of electricity. The government is not serious about dealing with this problem. The existing large investments came out of the efforts of the last PNP administration, and I want to big up Comrade Philip Paulwell for the work he did, and Comrade Vin Lawrence as well, through the ESET, to bring huge investment in renewables to Jamaica. That pipeline dry up under the JLP. And it is bad management of that portfolio why we have not seen the progress continue since the JLP came to office. We need to transition our energy sources from fossil fuels to renewables. We will put renewed energy into transforming Jamaica's energy mix to produce more clean energy from renewables and reduce electricity costs, which are significantly higher now than when we left office. The high level of irregular electricity consumption in Jamaica is also a challenge. It has an important social dimension as people fear disconnection, fear prosecution, and they suffer the inconvenience of prolonged power outages when JPS imposes protective measures to reduce non-paying consumption. Many families in Jamaica want to regularize their status as electricity consumers, but cannot afford the high cost of rewiring, inspection, and certification to do so. The next PNP government will introduce a major program to assist households to regularize their electricity consumption. And we will include, as part of the regularization process, the installation of solar panels at people's homes so that ongoing electricity usage of regularized customers is more affordable and also reduces Jamaica's carbon footprint. I move now to the issue of technology. The next PNP government will establish a National Research and Development Council, bringing together all relevant institutions from within the state, academia, the private sector and the trade unions to develop, monitor and evaluate a national R&D strategy, research and development. We need to draw on all available technical expertise across the society, public and private sector, academia, to prepare the country for unfolding impacts, both positive and negative, of artificial intelligence, AI. It is already clear that AI is going to have profound effects on many aspects of life, the economy, the society. But we need to prepare ourselves for the new era of AI that is emerging so that we can proactively take advantage of the opportunities and also manage the risks. We believe in the importance of research and development to move the economy to a higher level. We will accelerate the tax write-off of expenditure on research and development to encourage greater investment in innovation that ties agriculture to manufacturing, science and technology, and advancing the labor force. Our new direction must be built on solid research and collaborative effort. I move to the issue of workers' rights. The People's National Party has a long history of respect for the workers and workers' rights as part of our decolonizing mission of nearly 100 years. We established under Michael Joshua Manley the Industrial Disputes Tribunal to promote fairness and harmony at the workplace. We pass laws to give employees rights to notice pay and redundancy pay if they lose their job because their job disappears. We created incentives for companies to establish employee share ownership plans for their workers. I was part of the team that worked with Michael Manley in the 1990s to develop an employee share ownership program to empower our workers and create wealth for them. We empowered women by passing laws for equal pay for equal work and for maternity leave. And Beverly Manley, who is here, Beverly Manley Duncan, who is present, was a foundational force behind those important reforms. Big up, Sister Bev. Sister P herself brought the sexual harassment legislation to Parliament in 2016. It took the JLP nearly 7 years to pass it. We believe in Jamaica's workers. It is workers who build nations. And therefore, respect for workers' rights will continue to be at the heart of the PNP's governance when we return to office. So,
Equal rights, justice, and equal rights and justice.
social justice must also exist at the workplace. A major concern we have is the abuse of the contract work mechanism to deny our workers their basic rights and benefits that are supposed to be guaranteed to them by law. This must end. I am not saying that there's no place for engaging professional or technical service providers as independent contractors. Clearly there is. But contract work is being used to deny the rights and benefits that workers should have in situations where, for all intents and purposes, the individual is working as an employee. The next PNP government will put a stop to the abuse of this mechanism so that all our workers will enjoy the rights and benefits to which they are entitled under law. We will also revamp the Employee Share Ownership Plan Act, giving existing owners in the society incentives to facilitate their employees acquiring a piece of the pie. As I said, I was part of the team led by Michael Manley that pioneered that legislation in the early 1990s. It has time come now to make it user-friendly and to promote its benefits once again. I can tell you, my own personal experience is that employee share ownership plans can create great wealth for both employees and employers by forging common economic interests in the success of the business that strongly incentivizes high levels of productivity. And when you join that with a listing on the stock market, I have seen blue-collar workers in this country become millionaires through their ownership stake as the business grows and thrives. The People's National Party want our people to step up in our life and do well, and we know what it takes, and we're going to do it again. As I said in May, it is also time to increase the income tax threshold from 1.5 million to at least 3 million to take account of the high levels of inflation since it was last reset 7 years ago and give a reasonable buffer for ongoing inflation, which is still a problem. And we're calling on the government to implement that increase. Comrades and friends, my fellow Jamaicans, we live in an era where people want to have a piece of the pie. They want to be owners too. And the People's National Party wants that for them. It is important to build an ownership mindset so that more people can build intergenerational wealth. We want the Jamaican people to feel part of the society and treat it like they have a real stake in it. Economic transformation must have as an imperative the expansion of the ownership base of the society. And we believe that this can be achieved through investment in micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, which are really the most progressive part from a social perspective of uplifting the people through private entrepreneurship. MSMEs are a critical generator of employment, income and growth, and are therefore vital to achieving the economic transformation which is our mission. The People's National Party will modernize the laws and bureaucratic procedures that apply to our MSMEs. We will create a supportive and nurturing ecosystem for startup businesses so that formalizing their businesses is attractive, welcoming, and easy. Tax requirements, red tape must be minimized and simplified to allow new businesses to successfully establish themselves within the formal system, where they will have access to finance for expansion and other benefits that are not available in the informal sector. For example, the last PNP government designed and passed incentive legislation for the establishment of special economic zones, the SEZs. Apart from the former free zone firms which have transitioned into the SEZs, it has also become a preferred route for new investors in Jamaica. It is the SEZ law that has achieved that. I want to big up my friend Anthony Hilton. When he was minister, he pioneered that legislation. Now, under that act, operators in the special economic zones are offered low tax incentives. They have a special 12.5% corporate income tax rate, which is half the rate now paid by local companies. They get relief from tax on rental income, GCT relief, employment tax credit, and a promotional tax credit against their R&D and training expenses. SEZ firms benefit from customs relief, stamp duty exemptions on land transactions, and tax deductions relating to capital expenditure. But I say, if we can create special zones and benefits for large investors, why not do the same thing for micro, small, and medium-sized business people too, and for the informal sector to bring them into the formal sector? The next PNP administration will offer similar package of benefits to new and existing MSMEs as the SEZ operators enjoy if they regularize their businesses and they remain tax compliant. We are about economic transformation, moving Jamaica to a higher level. Under the PNP, our small business sector will finally get a proper break and the support they need to drive inclusive growth and employment and expand the ownership base of the economy. This will move Jamaica in the right direction. Time come now. And this talk of inclusion takes me to the tourism industry. Our society, as everyone knows, has become heavily dependent on tourism. It is a major contributor to GDP and employment. It is one of the fastest growing industries. It directly employs, I believe, 175,000 Jamaicans and generates indirect employment for another 350,000 people. Yet, tourism in Jamaica should be contributing far more to the national economy. Most of the earnings from tourism never come into Jamaica. And the large hotels have adopted the enclave model, where guests enjoy their entire visit, staying at the hotel or going on tours organized by the hotel. And this means that the benefits of the sector do not sufficiently get into the local economy, even though significant portions of taxpayer dollars are spent every year advertising Jamaica to promote the industry. This government we have now wants to expand that model to the benefit of a few. The next PNP government will take things in a new direction by transitioning away from enclave tourism to a more inclusive model that is more integrated into the Jamaican economy. We will provide incentives to hotels which integrate their business models with the local community and with the Jamaican economy. And we must also deal with the vexed issue of beach access. Jamaica as we sell more sand and sea to the hotel industry. Local communities are losing access to beaches as a place where families can enjoy themselves and fishing communities can thrive. Traditional access is a thing of the past, and it gets worse with each announcement of another hotel development. Each time yet another beach is removed from the public's use. It can't stay that way. Imagine growing up and going to a beach, creating lasting memories with your friends and your family over the years, and then one day a fence goes up or a wall is built and you're cut off from your beach and your memories. That is not right, people. The form of social exclusion has become a prejudicial line against ordinary Jamaicans, and these things create vexation in the nation. Beach exclusion reminds us of our long history of injustice, and the people have a legitimate complaint. The next PNP government will address this issue. We will work with all stakeholders to implement a progressive beach access policy. The state has leverage to protect the public interest, as the Beach Control Act makes provision for the acquisition of rights over private land to provide beach access to the public. The PNP will use this tool in the public interest. We will adjust this if we have to, because we have a vision of tourism that is in harmony with ordinary Jamaican people, so the benefits to our society grow and our society can get wealthier from it. We will partner with tourism investors to secure appropriate rights of access for public to be able to enjoy our beaches, while at the same time allowing tourism to contribute even more to the economic well-being of investors and Jamaica at large. We have to have a whole of society approach. We can't deal with this enclave system of thinking about how we move forward. One Jamaica. I'm going to talk a little bit now about social transformation. This government has failed miserably after 7 years in dealing with the critical issue of building a safe and secure society. The Holness-led administration has failed in keeping its promise to make Jamaica a place where you can sleep with your windows and doors open. Just as they have failed to deliver 5% growth in 4 years and so many unfulfilled promises.
On a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, on a Thursday, on a Friday, on a Saturday, 2 times on a Sunday.
Last year we had the worst murder rate in Latin America and the Caribbean, 52.9 murders per 100,000 people. It is not acceptable. So, what is our strategy for dealing with this long-term problem? Our position on crime, violence, and the delivery of justice for our people remains consistent. It is rooted in our vision of social transformation. We believe in a balanced approach, using both crime control as well as crime prevention measures to deal with the issue of violent crime. A balanced approach is essential to social harmony and crime reduction, and a more cohesive society is essential to reducing discontent and violence in the society. Whether we're dealing with race or gender or class, I hear the prophetic words of Peter Tosh: there will be no peace without equal rights and justice. We have to focus on building peace and unity as the main approach to reducing crime and violence. It is a mindset change that will guide the next PNP government. Peace cannot be achieved in communities through oppressive laws and government badness that trample on the basic rights and freedoms of our people. Peace and unity are directly linked to equal rights and justice. The reality is that this government has spent money on the JDF at twice the rate since they came in power than the rate at which they've been spending on the police force, when the country has a crime and violence problem, and it is the responsibility of the police force to deal with it. That can't be right. that needs to be rebalanced. We will approach this in a different way. We have to deal with it without this state of emergency fixation. They have used this state of emergency and it is a failed strategy because it is not designed as a crime-fighting measure. And they've introduced a very dangerous situation because every Jamaican's basic rights and freedoms are suspended when they're in a state of emergency. Many thousands of Jamaican youths have been held in detention under these states of emergency, often for long periods of time. Very few were ever charged with any serious offense. Many lost their jobs. Many have been stigmatized as a result of the way this government has used states of emergency. And it is costing taxpayers millions and millions of dollars as the court awards compensation to those who have been wrongly detained under those states of emergency. We consider this a serious abuse of power. There is nothing routine about a state of emergency. It only exists and was intended only to be used as the Constitution's last resort to protect the state from subversion. This is why we have taken the matter to court for a definitive ruling. The People's National Party will always stand up for the basic rights and freedoms of our people. The increasing militarization of law enforcement is not a strategy that we endorse. We must give law enforcement the tools they need to be effective. We will focus on properly equipping our police and the justice system with the legislation, the tools, the technology, and the human resources to carry out their work. Those who choose a life of badness and won't change their ways will face severe consequences. We'll be resolute in coming down on those who insist on perpetuating evil in the society.
Is on your shoulder. Kill I today, you cannot kill I tomorrow.
Yeah, man. Big up Gargamel. From the law enforcement's perspective, what is needed now is carefully designed legislation that allows a spearfishing approach, enabling the effective prosecution of the dangerous criminals, not casting a wide net that makes the many who are good suffer for the few who are bad. I have already designed the essential elements of legislation to enable the police to take dangerous criminals off the street for a reasonable period of time. I have suggested 42 days under a court-supervised process that allows a prosecutable case to be built where there is credible intelligence that needs to be turned into evidence. Jamaica's chronic problem of crime and violence reflects the failures within our society as a whole. We must seek to address the weaknesses in our society that create the conditions why so many of our youths are being attracted to a life of serious crime. We can't continue to ignore them and expect the security forces to suppress them. It just creates chaos in the society. As Jimmy Cliff said, you have to treat the youth right or you'll be playing with dynamite. We in the People's National Party understand these things, and that is why we are in favor of effective interventions to deal with youths who are at risk. The next PNP government will ensure there is a well-funded, wide-reaching national program to provide opportunities for vulnerable youths. We must give them a chance to become productive citizens through mentorship, training, remedial education, job placements. We must help them to develop life skills, building their self-esteem and their sense of citizenship. The Jamaican society was built on a system which embraced violence. In our decolonization mission, we must seek to repair that aspect of our history. That is why we favor restorative justice methods. The Peace Management Initiative will be revamped, revitalized and made to work in all the hotspots across the country. We have seen over and over again how reprisals kill and maim the innocent, including precious little children. We need a system in communities that can manage that. We need a team of violence interrupters on the ground who can intervene in conflicts and avert escalation of conflicts. And this must be supported in our schools with school-wide positive behavioral interventions through the Ministry of Education. We started this before with programs like the Peace Management Initiative and Unite for Change. But the JLP government quickly abandoned them as soon as they came to office. And what we see now is the private sector seeking to fill the gap with Project STAR. We endorse and support that effort, but there needs to be a well-funded program on a national scale in order to make an effective change. We cannot cede that out to the private sector. That must be the people's government's concern. We have to deal with it. The matter of domestic violence is another great concern to the People's National Party. It is wonderful to have a good empress in your life. I have one, and I'm grateful for it. And for the empresses, a good man in your life is also a wonderful thing. We need to live more loving. We need to settle our differences without resorting to violence. That approach is good for the children, good for the communities. It's good for peace of mind, and it's good for the society as a whole. We each have to personally commit to rethinking how we deal with each other. Time now, time come for a full parliamentary review of the Domestic Violence Act, which has been delayed for the past 7 years under this government. It will be an immediate priority for the next PNP administration. The state must put in place protective measures and mechanisms to protect people who are victims of domestic violence, in particular our women. We must protect the survivors. We must rehabilitate the offenders. We need to have safe places for survivors to retreat to. We will establish support centers in every parish to provide safe havens for the survivors of domestic violence. Time come. In our prison system, inadequate attention to rehabilitation and post-release employment opportunities has resulted in an acceptably high rate of persons reoffending, and then they end up back in prison again. It is over 40% recidivism rate in Jamaica. It means the prison system as it's currently operating is contributing to making crime and violence worse. The whole society benefits when a former criminal turns his life around and becomes a constructive member of society. We have to move this in the right direction. Too many Jamaicans suffer serious abuse of one sort or another, and they get no means of lawful justice. So apart from rehabilitation and reform in our prisons, we will pass legislation to empower the public defender to bring legal proceedings to defend the rights of vulnerable Jamaicans. As it stands now, the public defender doesn't have that power. And we will expand the scope of the Office of the Public Defender to become a national human rights institution to monitor and report on Jamaica's performance in respect of the rights of our citizens. This kind of thinking is not new to the PNP, people. We never just come. We have a long history of pursuing a social justice agenda for the people of Jamaica. Our law relating to ganja had been an instrument of oppression for 100 years. We decriminalized ganja so no one can be arrested or charged for a draw of weed or a spliff. PNP did that. Decriminalization of personal use of ganja has rid our courts of over 10,000 cases a year and prevented thousands of youths from the burden of a criminal record. We also established the automatic expungement procedure to clear the police records of anyone who in the past had been convicted of an offense involving the personal use of ganja. The People's National Party is the party of liberation of the people. Comrades, time is against me, and I'm going to wrap up shortly. I have a lot more things to say, let me tell you, but they will come another time. What I want to close by saying is this. The next PNP government intends to move Jamaica in the right direction. Our concept of progress requires social and economic transformation, not just fiscal discipline. Fiscal discipline is necessary, but is not sufficient. We understand what it will take to achieve higher levels of inclusive and sustainable economic growth to drive national development. It must be built on principles of integrity, inclusion, equity, and justice. We believe that the Jamaican people have the power to make this happen, and it requires the leadership of the People's National Party to take Jamaica forward on this great mission of hope for our people. Time come now. It is dependent on you and me, and all well-thinking Jamaicans at home and abroad, working together for the greater good. So coming out of this wonderful 85th conference, let us continue, comrades, to build the unity and strength that has brought us to the point where we have reached today. I am confident that the Jamaican people will give us the chance to implement our plans for delivering hope and a better life for the people of Jamaica as we continue to focus on our noble objectives and our historic purpose as a political party. I have no doubt that the PNP will form the next government of Jamaica, building on what we've achieved over the past year to make ourselves ready to shoulder the responsibility of government in service to the people of Jamaica. Comrades and friends, we have had a remarkable conference. We have made sound strategic decisions for our party. We have outlined a vision of hope for the people of Jamaica. Let us continue to work together in our groups, divisions, constituency and regions to ensure that when the trumpet sounds, we deliver the victory for the People's National Party. God bless you all, God keep you all, and God bless Jamaica, land we love. And comrades, when you're leaving, if you're traveling by bus or you're traveling on the road, take care. Don't drive too fast. Don't hang out the bus. Be good, disciplined PNP people. One love, comrades. One love. The word is love.
Know that the crime reach everybody door. Uptown, them a leak shot. Downtown, everybody have to get flat. They don't have a clue how we stop the crime. Every day it a climb, this have to be a sign. Come red, step up, make we try the line. Jamaica need a change, this have to be the time. Time come, tell them other one, them say them time done. A progress we are deal with the long run. With PNP the betterment must come, must come. Time come, tell them other one, them say them time done. A progress we are deal with the long run. With PNP the betterment must come, must come. Watch the crime, watch the stress, watch the poverty. All know me can't see no prosperity. We have the people and the purpose and the plan. Don't know say I'm a gaddy man. Come red, step up, make we take back we country. Poor people now feeling prosperity. I feel trying to non-stop this austerity. Mark a the man with the real sincerity.